On this episode of Play PS5 the podcast, Alex and Adam dive into Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Alex returns to Returnal, and then Adam and Alex hit it or quit it with E3 and the latest news on the PS5 front. Don't play with yourself. Play with this podcast on Play PS5 the podcast, starting right now.
Welcome to Play PS5, the podcast, where we don't want you to play with yourself. We want you to play PS5, the podcast. And you want to know why? Because we've got two dudes, one console, four boobs, and two protagonists, Ratchet and Clank. You know what, Alex? You're a pretty big equation. You're a part of the equation here. How about you tell the listeners what we are going to bless their ears with this podcast?
Yeah, we're going to talk about Ratchet and Clank. We're going to convince the listeners to play with us, and we are going to talk a little bit about Returnal, but the big deal is we got some news, we got some games coming out, we got a new segment called Hit It or Quit It, which I'm looking forward to seeing what your mind has concocted, because I don't really know how this was generated. So there's a lot going on here. I'm pumped about it, and I'm pumped to talk to you. But I'm really pumped to talk to you about Ratchet and Clank. But Adam, I want to preemptively, listeners, forgive me if I look horrible and sound terrible. It's allergy season, and my nose is stopped up. And to top it off, I ate some spicy pizza, got stuck in my teeth, and I used a water pick. So now my gums are all swollen. This is not a great time to be me, but it's a great time to be playing PS5 and playing with us on the podcast. Do I sound all right to you, Adam? Are you excited to talk to me?
I mean, you're ugly like usual, but yeah, everything is up. We're back to normal. We're going to jump into our gamer juice. And Alex, I thought because Ratchet and Clank, we've been waiting a long time. It's a monumentous point, not only for us, but for PlayStation 5. So I thought I'd spice it up a little bit. I'm not too much of a cocktail guy, so I wanted to do something easy tonight, rum and Coke. So I got all your favorite things. I got my tea thing that you say looks like a bong.
That's a neti pot.
That I got my neti pot bong. And what you want to do is 8 ounces of Coke. Do you drink rum and Cokes?
I do not. I have much girlier drinks on tap here.
Okay, well, so typically you're going to do about 8 ounces of Coke, and then around maybe 50 to 60 milliliters.
He's talking about the cola, you guys. Don't let him distract you.
Or am I? So you can either use light rum or dark rum. I choose to use light rum. I just use Bacardi. I also use one of the small $1 little rum things, and then you also get one with lime. So you add one entire little. You know what? F it. We're gonna just go hard. We're gonna go to the basket because it's podcast night, baby. So as I mix this up, you have told me that one of your gamer juices is nasty and one is good. So as I'm shaking and serving myself, how about you tell us what you're drinking?
I've never known you to be this much of I don't want to call you a lush, but a lush, Adam. But it's interesting that you're all in on this. Is that the same drink that you poured all over your DualSense controller?
No, that was sour apple schnapps.
That sounds kind of tasty. I went to the Come and Go. Shout out to the Come and Go. Got a cup of ice to help me wash down some of the stuff. Come and Go coming at you. This looks like maybe the most, I don't know how to say this politically correctly, the most prideful drink I could have gotten at the Come and Go. This is Hawaiian shaved ice, Alani Nu. Have I done this before? Have I done this drink before?
Oh, dude, I'm going to get trashed tonight. You're going to have to carry us. Go ahead. No, I don't know this.
Some girly energy drink, but it's got energy in it, and it really looks like it's going to promote vaginal health.
It's got energy.
It's got energy. It's going to, and also warning, you're going to get trashed. I'm going to trash my pants because it's got sugar alcohol in it, which is just known to give you straight diarrhea. So we're going to see how this goes. I'll start off with this so I can carry on strong. But I wanted to get adult with it, so I got a Michelob Ultra. I didn't even know this after I bought an organic seltzer. I just tried to pick the most disgusting adult beverage I could. Cucumber lime, Organic
Oh,
seltzer,
that doesn't sound that bad. I don't know
Michelob
about the
Ultra. I
alcohol,
think
but
the only word I like in this equation is lime, and that's like a passing likeness. So
mm.
that's what we're working with today. It's nothing crazy. It's just not. I'm not looking forward to it, but that's the point of the gamer juice. The games bring what you enjoy, and the juice punishes you for gaming. You know what I mean?
Yeah. On the other hand, I put entirely too much rum in my drink. It is, I feel like, it's way too much rum. But you know what? It's okay. It
Are you
tastes
gonna finish
good.
it? Are you gonna finish it by the time we're done?
Are you kidding me? Without a doubt. I'll finish it by end of this effing freaking segment.
I don't know. I don't even know if we've had a loopy podcast with you, Adam. I think I got to the end of one podcast and it was not a good night for Alex.
Well, I
Um,
mean, that's how we do. No, I typically don't drink much. I don't let myself get out of control. But what I do let get out of the control is Power A. They are the company that has served us well for so many years, Alex. The Power A play of the week is, of course, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. So I wasn't originally going to purchase this, if you remember, but I couldn't. I saw the reviews and I saw people getting hyped, and I haven't played an actual PS5 game in seemingly forever. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy it physically, $70, and then I'm going to go in, play it, fairly quickly, and then I'll be able to sell that and then, get some of that money back. So
can we just appreciate the irony before we get into it? Of last episode was about you and me arguing if Ratchet and Clank was going to be worth it, and now we come to this episode and you're the one that bought it because you just couldn't resist the allure. I don't
well,
get you, Adam,
I
but
don't
I'm
know.
happy that you bought it. I want
It's
to
not
talk to you
necessarily
about it.
the allure. It's that I literally have not played video games in like almost since May. And it's because there's nothing to play. And so this is the first time that something's come out. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. Anyhow, I'm not going to let you shower me with insults. The thing is, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. So $70. It's about 15, 16 hours. I am not finished with it entirely yet. I'm a good ways in it. I'm going to say maybe 9 hours, something like that. So I've definitely got a good gist of the game. And here are my in general thoughts. And then we will let you ask questions and we'll jump in from there. So, first of all, I would admit, and I hate being a Debbie Downer, I really do. My thought of this game, and I think this, if I had to highlight it in one concise sense, it is a fantastic showcase for the PS5, but it is an average game at best. I think the way it utilizes the PS5, the speed of it, the creativity, the way it uses the controller, the haptic feedback, the different vibrations are it's a marvel. It's groundbreaking. But the game, you're making a ton of noise. The game, it I don't want to say it's bad, but I mean it's not good. So have you ever played a Ratchet and Clank game, Alex?
Yeah, I think I played the original one that came out, didn't finish it. I played the remake that came out on PS4, got pretty far into it. I also didn't finish that, but I played enough to, I played a decent amount of it. It was very, very good. I did, oddly enough, there was one that came out on PSP, and I couldn't put that bad boy down. It was awesome, which is weird because it's like probably the worst Ratchet and Clank game there is, aside from the weird racing game that they had. Oh no, that was Jack and Daxter. The weird multiplayer shoot 'em up that they had that I don't think you can even play nowadays. But yeah, I feel relatively well versed in what Ratchet and Clank is going for, and it's always felt really good to me. It hasn't, it's never been that next level of enjoyment that you might get out of something like, Near Automata, need we say it again, or any of these other Game of the Year things. And I don't see how a Ratchet and Clank game could ever be a Game of the Year contender. But they're always solid. They're always fun, and I always finish the session feeling like I didn't waste my time, like I had a good time with it. So that's kind of my gist of Ratchet and Clank. They're never like 10 out of 10, but at best they're like a 9 out of 10. At worst, the worst situation is like a 7.5, 8 out of 10 type experience.
So I've played Ratchet and Clank. I don't know, I was so young, I don't remember if I actually beat it or not, but I played it. The game really has not evolved. It's the same game. It's just now it's on new technology, which I and I I'm walking on eggshells here because I certainly don't want to insult anyone. I understand gaming experiences, everyone looks for something different in a game. But this is a game, people who would like this game like playing Mario games, which
Yeah.
to me is horrible. I hate that. It's a kid's game. This is a kid's game, and it's just masked behind some of the newest technology, which is what I think has a lot of adult gamers super hyped because we see the potential. I see the potential in this and how now Square Enix and Guerrilla Games and all these others are going to look at this and say, okay, that's how you do it. Now we can take these graphics, we can take that dual sense utilization, we can take that creativity in terms of going from level to level and environment to environment and put it in a quote unquote adult game. So that's where I'm disappointed. I should have probably known it was going to be the same. I didn't think it was going to be the same exact game as when I was a kid. The plot, borderline, I mean, plot is garbage. It's abysmal. I guess you would anticipate it. Each gun, so there are some good things about it. I'll cover those first. So, if one, as we anticipated, it is extremely fast. I saw one, I'm going to say it's a load screen, but it was like maybe 0.5 seconds. It was incredibly fast. And that is the only load screen I've ever seen. They utilize these jumping between levels by they walk into a rift which just takes you from one dimension to the next, and that transition going from one rift or one dimension to the other is essentially the load screen, but it's so fast. And there's little things like when you jump into like a mini game, there like the character will fall down and there's an announcer and it's setting up what you are about ready to do with some type of cinematic, very quick cinematic movie, or the announcer is mentioning something, and that is essentially their load screen, but it's not like a conventional load screen. So that I think is brilliant. It is awesome. It makes fast gameplay. It's something that it's the first time I've seen a game that legitimately I feel like had no load screens. And because I knew that, I can appreciate it. I hope that is something that we will see from here on out. Have you played a game, Alex, where there were pretty much no load screens? I haven't played Returnal. I don't know what Returnal is like. Obviously, I mean, a lot of the PS5 games still do, even though it's so fast. What Destruction All Stars has them. I don't know about Sackboy. I feel like there were some load screens in Sackboy. A Near Replicant had, of course, that wasn't a PS5 game. But what are your ideas on load screens? Does this matter to you? Do you care?
So one of the first, I mean, old school games didn't have load screens, right? Cartridge games.
Yeah, yeah.
But now modern games, we got used to load screens. One of the first games I remember noticing not having a load screen was Metroid Prime for the GameCube. And that was because they were very clever with how they loaded the game. I think they basically loaded the game in the background because you go from room to room. Whenever you're in one room, they kind of loaded the other two rooms like quickly, to make things load more quickly, so you never felt that loading. Or they would load it behind the door opening animation, so it felt seamless, and it made a game that's about exploration like that really nice and enjoyable. Returnal kind of does the same thing, except I I don't think it even has that like door loading delay. Sometimes Returnal's just completely seamless. There's a couple instances where you feel, if you're paying attention, you can tell that they're loading there. One is whenever you're teleporting from like one area to another. It does this really cool animation with all these beautiful particle effects, but you can tell it's kind of warming something up before it transitions to the next room. The other is whenever you die and it shows like a cutscene to like restart the game. They're obviously loading something in the background, but every single time I've done one of those, I can hold down the X button and it'll skip. But you have to hold down the X button for a certain amount of time. I imagine that's the amount of time it takes for them to load all the assets again. There was one instance where I loaded a level. I went through a portal and walked in and came out the other end, and it was still popping in parts of the level, like the high res environment stuff. That only happened once. It wasn't very distracting. I was still running through the level, but it just that one time it happened. So I'm really enjoying this stuff, and I know Ratchet and Clank's probably even less obvious than Returnal.
Yeah, it is. They just did a fantastic job. It's also unique. As first time I've seen this, and I don't know if there is a reason they did this, or is it's just they decided to. So when you go into a rift, most games, when you fast travel to a certain point within a level, you move to that point. Like you can see you moving in space to that point. But the way that Ratchet and Clank does it is that that space kind of moves to you. So when you are being fast traveled to a certain point in a level, you can kind of acquaint yourself with the environment as you are moving to that point. But because of this, that level or that area is being pushed upon you and it's so quick, it catches you off guard and you aren't able to really prepare. Does that, I don't know if that makes any sense. If
No,
you would,
that
does it
I
make sense?
I feel like it's probably a presentation thing more than like some kind of new technology thing, but it does sound like novel presentation for fast travel. So that is interesting. I'd probably have to see it in execution or in a video before I really understood what could happen, but I can kind of picture what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, you see it once and you're going to exactly know what I'm talking about. And I don't know if it's something to do with loading because it's in the level. I wouldn't think so, but it's definitely a new way of presenting it. It makes it harder because really those games where you're moving to a point, you can in that time assess, okay, where are the enemies? How can I move my body and prepare? This, there's nothing. You get sent there and then you're scrambling once you're there when the enemies are around you. But the other thing that I think is the best thing about the game is obviously the dual sense utilization. So every gun has a different feel, it has different noises, the haptic feedback is different, the vibrations are different. So they use this one thing that I'm not going to give I'm not like knocking their utilization on it. I think there's going to be some of this I'm going to have to get used to, and then some of it maybe they're going to have to work on as well in terms of developing it. But they have what they're calling half trigger and full trigger in the game, which I didn't even know what that meant. So with that haptic feedback trigger, you only pull the trigger like halfway, which you have to really lightly hold that R2 button because obviously if you push too hard, it turns into a full trigger and that fully shoots the gun. So for example, when you are going to launch a grenade, a half trigger just kind of lightly launches it and a full trigger chucks it. So it's very unique. It's something that I feel like was never utilized in other games as well as this. But, and the same thing when you're shooting plasma guns or all the guns, they utilize this in a unique way. I absolutely love that. I love the DualSense. I mentioned this is what I think makes PlayStation stand out among others. Does that excite you in any way? I remember you mentioning like you think that could be something they would do. Does that make you want to play it? Do you think that should just be a given at this point?
I'm at the point with the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 5 library where I'm horny for any DualSense utilization that actually goes for it. You know, it's nice to have haptics and a bit of resistive triggers in PlayStation 4 updates, but talking what you're saying about Ratchet and Clank, it sounds really similar to what I've seen in Returnal, where you do like you hit L2 to aim down the sights of your gun. But in Returnal, you go halfway with L2 to aim down the sights. You go all the way with L2 to use your alternate fire. And it's kind of janky at first. It feels weird at first just because you're not used to it. But when you get used to it, it makes a whole lot of sense and it's really nice. And I imagine Ratchet and Clank probably it feels something similar where it's off-putting at first, but I imagine, Insomniac doesn't seem like somebody who would do something just to try to be novel. They would do it because it makes the gameplay better. So I'd imagine that it's one of those things. If you get used to it, it really makes a lot of sense. The idea of pulling the left trigger more to launch your grenades further, I really like that. Like, if is it does it show like an arc of where the grenade's going to go if you shoot it or something like that, or
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
yeah, so I really like that idea. That's a really cool idea because it back in the day, Xbox 360, it used to be you hold it down and then you watch the thing just kind of like go back and forth. You got to try to time it or something like that, which I kind of hated. So that is interesting. Have you updated your DualSense? Are you getting notifications to update the firmware on your DualSense?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, so I didn't think that was going to be a big deal. I'd been playing Returnal and I kept blowing past that screen. I finally updated it and wow, it was different because I always heard about people talking about you can feel the rain in the controller and I never could. And then I finally updated it like yesterday. and I was playing the game. I was like, why does it suddenly feel like there's little pinpricks all over my hand? Oh, it's because I'm getting rained on. So okay, I wanted to make sure that you had an updated controller before you passed judgment on the DualSense capabilities of Ratchet and Clank for better or worse.
Yeah, no, I think they definitely utilized it well. The best utilization of a controller I think I've ever seen. I honestly think this is the best thing about the game is that utilization. I already mentioned going into the things I don't like as much. So I already mentioned the plot is really bad. I guess you didn't anticipate it. Think of Mario, it's about the same level plot, which I could care less for. One thing that is a little disappointing, and this may be personal preference too, there is so much going on at times in the game. It's too busy. I can't really appreciate the environments because there is too much crap. Instead of like one thing I liked about The Last of Us 2 is that when you go in these environments and they're vast and they're big, and certainly there are times where there is a lot going on and there are a lot of enemies, but a lot of the time you can really admire your atmosphere because okay, the wind's blowing and you see the movement of the leaves, but you can sit there and just admire it and look. You're not constantly being bombarded. And with Ratchet and Clank, the big issue is that there are no areas really that are devoid of some type of obstacle. Everywhere you go, there are things moving around, or there are boxes, or there are different abnormalities in some type of landscape, or there's ships that are flying above you. There's always something going on. And so although the graphics are amazing, they're beautiful, it looks like a Pixar game. Even during the gameplay, it looks like a Pixar game. I meant a Pixar movie. It looks incredible, but I feel like I can't really appreciate it because there's too much crap going on. It's like if like you go to an open house and you walk in the house and the interior designer went too overboard and they have too much furniture and things on the wall that you can't appreciate the accented painted walls or maybe the crown molding or some of the fine things that make a certain room or a house really it adds character and makes it unique. I feel like they lost that by putting too much crap in the environments. So that I'm a bit disappointed with. I know most people really enjoy it and they're loving the graphics. The graphics are good. Would you play this for the graphics or the environment, Alex? Or are you always, if you buy this, are you in it for the gameplay, the dual sense, and maybe just to see the capabilities of the speed?
So, I mean, just to touch on the plot thing that you mentioned, I don't come to Ratchet and Clank for a good plot. It would be great. Like, and that might be one of the elements it's missing is why it's not like a game of the year type thing. Is because the plot's always kind of passable, right? It's supposed to be lighthearted because that's not the point of this game. You're not supposed to get dramatically involved. It's just something to move you around environments and move you around the game. I've always thought the writing, like the dialogue and stuff, was at least not like interesting, but kind of clever and enjoyable to listen to. I like hearing what they're saying just because there's little jokes or there's just a good amount of character in the voice actors.
But see,
Um,
see here, this the voice acting's fine. Yeah, I thought there were jokes. There aren't any jokes in here. I thought maybe I misinterpreted, but yeah, I remembered, or I thought I remembered there being like almost potty humor and stuff.
I don't think there's like punchlines, but I think there's some things that are kind of funny. Like, isn't there like a alien planet or another reality where everybody has like a Midwestern accent for some reason? Like that's just the weird kind of stuff that pops up in a Ratchet and Clank game. Maybe you're not there yet. I just read about it in a review, but that's the kind of stuff that pops up. That's kind of funny. It's not like you're gonna be laughing like side splitting, but it's just kind of whimsical, and I appreciate that in the game. You do bring up a point, and it's kind of the same feeling I got with the other Ratchet and Clank games. That the game is very busy. The environments are very busy, and even though you're not rushed in the game, you feel rushed. I'm speaking from prior experience with Ratchet and Clank games. You feel like you don't have a moment to breathe, right? And at least my experience with Ratchet and Clank games was, yeah, these games are beautiful, and these environments have a lot going on, and it's a technical marvel. But I kind of don't want to stop to explore because I'm afraid I'm going to see behind the curtain a little bit. I might see that same, flying car whiz past 3 or 4 times, and it'll break the illusion for me. I want to keep the environment at a distance for me. because they're trying to maintain this illusion of like you're in this busy city and there's a lot going on and you're just kind of running through. And granted, that's part of the charm of Ratchet and Clank. The whole idea of Ratchet and Clank is that it's just chaos, right? Everything you do has like things exploding and there's nuts and bolts just flying everywhere and that nothing it's never stopping. Um but that is it's stressful not in like a frustrating way like this game is hard. It's stressful in like damn it, I wish it would just stop for a second so I could
Yeah.
just soak it in.
Hmm.
You never have a chance to soak it in, you know?
Yeah.
You never have a chance to be like, man, I am having a good time. I am really enjoying what's happening here. These mechanics feel really fun. And that's something that I think gaming recently, like maybe in the past 5 or so years, last generation, something that gaming really got around to. You look at games like Dark Souls and Demon Souls and just a lot of even the shoot 'em up games and stuff, they come around and they really want you to soak it in and really feel the environment and get intimately involved with the setting of the game. Whereas Ratchet and Clank, I mean, in the very premise of the game, you're jumping through portals constantly. It's almost like they don't want you to have a moment to stop. And so I think if I play the game, I'm gonna have to lean into that and just accept that and come to the game knowing that like this is what they want me to feel. I'm gonna try to feel it as much as I can. I want to feel as chaotic as I can, and I think I'd probably enjoy the game more. Um, just another quick note with the guns. My issue with Ratchet and Clank when I play them, my problem, and this is me as a gamer, is you have all these guns and I never use them because I have that thing in me where it's like I'm gonna have to save this for something important. But there's never anything like that important in these Ratchet and Clank. There might be a boss fight, but it's never that important to where like you really should have saved your rocket launcher for that. Well, you got rocket launcher. Like you should just use what you have when you have it, and then use your pistol when you're done with everything else because you're going to get more rockets soon. Um, and I think that would help me lean into the chaos of the game. I don't know if that's how you play. Do you find yourself struggling with the like hoarding of ammunition and guns and stuff because you could probably beat everything with a pistol if you played skillfully, but then that slows down the pace of the game. Do you run into that?
Yeah, so that is one thing they fix for you in the fact that a lot, mainly the bosses, but actually not just the boss, the either the bosses or the, I guess the enemy rushes. I don't know what you want to call it. Certain points where they just throw a bunch of enemies at you, you have to use all of your ammunition. You can't waste any of it. And so there have been multiple times, more than 5 times, where I literally used almost every bit of my ammunition. I had one gun left with, I don't know, a medium amount of ammo, but every other gun I used and I used all of its ammo. So they fix that for you. You aren't going to be hoarding because you're not going to be able to. You're going to need it. So I really do like the guns. I like the variability of them. I think they utilize them well. I like the upgrade system. I like the guns. They did a good job with that. I know that's like a staple in Ratchet and Clank are the guns, the utilization of technology like hover boots and all these different things. They did that well. And that, thankfully, if you play it, I think you will like because yeah, you're gonna have to use every gun that you have. So the other issue, and this is also a tough one because I don't think there's a hard definition. Like a lot of these things I've mentioned, there's like hard and fast. Like they use the controller well. The plot is bad. The graphics are good. But for me, to mention that a game is fun is tough. There's like a fun factor, right? And it's almost like an indescribable quality. Like I don't know how to mention a game is fun. It's like it's fun or it's not fun. And Ratchet and Clank just isn't fun. Like I'm not having a fun time playing it. I'm shooting and I thought I was like, oh, I'll get the platinum because Shafe Dog was like, oh, it's 20 hours for a platinum. I was like, oh, the game's, probably 15 hours anyhow. I'll just play a little more, get the platinum. There's no way I'm getting the platinum. At certain points of the game, I'm rushing just to get done because I don't want to play it anymore. It's not fun. You just hold down the button. There's a bunch of crap going on, a bunch of explosions. The plot is bad. Like it's really cool to see the graphics and the utilization of the controller, but you're going to get 15 hours of that, whether you are enjoying the game or not. So you can enjoy that, but still want to rush through the game because you're going to get enough of that aspect of the game because it's a cornerstone of it. And I mean, there's little things like different rifts that send you to different parts. I don't know what it's not fun. It made me I'm like on the verge of being like, I wish I hadn't have bought it because it's not fun. I don't want to play it. I'm forcing myself to play it. Not only one, because we had to talk about the podcast tonight, but two, obviously it's freaking $70 for it. I gotta finish it. It's not even that long of a game. And to me, that's almost soul crushing. I'm like, that's what happens when I don't really do my research and I jump into games. What was it? Maydays. I spent $10 on a freaking new Tetris game and it sucked the biggest ones I've ever seen in my life. It's like 18 floors type crap. So I don't know. Are you worried at all if you buy it that it's not going to be fun? Or do you think this is a type of game that even if it's not crazy fun, you're still going to enjoy?
I I know exactly what you're talking about, and it is hard to describe. If I had to describe, I mean, this is kind of a problem I have with a lot of Insomniac games, is that the mechanics are so polished. The mechanics are like everything works so well that it's almost like there's no soul to the game, which is unfair because it really feels like they tried to inject as much soul as possible in the Ratchet and Clank games with all the dialogue and the character and stuff like that. And I really hate to say something like that about Insomniac, who is just like such a proven development team, and they're apparently like literally the greatest company you could ever work for. According to all of the metrics that people go by with not just video game companies, I think they always rank as like one of the best companies anyone could ever work for, which is great and it should be praised. And they finished this game without a crunch, so stuff like that, and then the end product. I hate to say, like, it feels a bit soulless, but they do feel that way. And part of me thinks, and kind of what you're talking about, is that it feels like you almost play the game on autopilot. Like you have a base level of interaction with the game, and there's never like second order operations happening in your head where you're like really thinking critically or strategically to try to solve something, or whether it taps into anything besides your like lizard brain gamer mind. Does that make sense? Because like
Yeah,
near.
here's my thing. Was gonna go there. It's like near and it's like bug snacks. Here's the difference. Ratchet and Clank, near is great because you have that plot. Okay, the gameplay you can argue is repetitive and not that exciting, but it has a plot that will F you till next week. And then you got bug snacks, which okay, doesn't have the greatest of plots, nothing special there, but the gameplay is so unique and the theory of it is unlike anything else we've seen, and it's so charming. With Ratchet and Clank, it's got the worst of both of those two games. It's got a plot that is garbage, that's like bug snacks, who gives a crap. It's not bad, it's just like something, okay, you would read that in a children's novel or a children's book. And then it's got gameplay that's like Nier Automata. Like it's not bad. There's a lot going on. You're mushing buttons, but it's not that great. And so you're right. It leaves like I feel like I am going through the motions, and I'm essentially playing a game for that controller to shake in different ways and do different things, which to me is not worth $70 or 15 hours of my time.
Not to get too philosophical with it, but I this is something I find with some video games, and Ratchet and Clank is like a prime example of it for me. And it's something I've been thinking about a lot lately because I'm thinking about old games that somehow in my life, if I ever get time to play some of these old games I want to replay, like back from the 360 era, they're all the games I want to go back to aren't the best games. They're not the AAA 10 out of 10 games. They're like these weird 7 out of 10 games that I want to experience again. And I keep thinking that it's like there's this Buddhist saying philosophy where a guy makes a vase and it's this beautiful, perfect vase, and then he breaks it and there's a crack in it. And they ask, why did you put a crack in that beautiful, perfect, artistic vase you made? And he says, there's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. And so to me, that's what happens with some of these games, like the original Nier. It was janky as hell. There's all sorts of shortcomings that and there's parts of it that are frustrating for you to even play as the gamer. But the cracks in the game design, the cracks in the game itself, are like the lows that cause you to appreciate the highs that you experience with the game. Not saying that it has to be bad to be great, but when you have a game like Ratchet and Clank, and again, I'm only speaking from my prior experiences with the games. I have not played this one, so I can't say definitively if this has fixed it, but I doubt it has. If you have a game that's kind of like it's never firing on all cylinders, but nothing's ever broken in it. It's almost always humming. It's almost always idling, if that makes sense. It's going. It's always going the speed limit or 5 over, and it never goes 20 miles an hour, and it never goes 80 miles an hour. It's just always humming along at 55, which is good and it's nice, and especially in the case of games that Insomniac makes, it's impressive as hell. But it just never feels special. And part of me thinks a game has to have something broken to it because they really put their efforts into something else to make it special. Like they sacrifice something to make something else worthwhile. And in the case of Ratchet and Clank games, it always seems like they never sacrifice something to make something else exceptional, which is completely unfair to me to say about game developers and stuff, but it's just the only way I can explain it. There's no crack in this game, but the converse of that is there's no light. There's nothing shining in the game beyond just like the technical marvel of it, which sometimes that just gets people that's what rides people through games. It's great, but it's not everything you're saying, Adam. 5 years from now, I'm not going to want to come back and replay Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. I might love it as I play through it, but there's nothing that's going to bring me back 5 years from now and say, I really got to play through that again. And I don't know if I've ever heard of anybody say, I really need to play through a Ratchet and Clank game again. And it's not just Ratchet and Clank. Happens with Resistance. Resistance Fall of Man, the PS3 launch title. Those games were super good, but you never wanted to go back to them. I never want to go back to Spider-Man. I had such a great time playing it. I never want to go back. So I think we're kind of have the same feeling. Maybe when I play the game when it eventually when you get tired of it and you send it to me, I'll be able to put my finger on exactly what it is. But it sounds like we're feeling the same beat. You're just a bit more critical than I am.
Yeah, so kind of to wind this down, I have after this one final question, but then I want to one, I guess, ask if you have any other questions about the game, and two, my overarching, I guess, recommendation would be I have a hard time telling people not to play the game because I do think it potentially could be groundbreaking in ways that is going to change the thought process of studios in the future and how they utilize the PS5. The graphics are incredible. The creativity in the way they have developed the game is very impressive. And then, of course, the controller is top notch, better than any utilization of a controller in a game I've ever seen in my life. So I would say play the game if at some point. I do not think this is worth $70. It's a shorter game, which I'm perfectly fine with. 15 hours to me is a great time for a game, lengthwise. But I'm not going to reiterate all the things we've mentioned. I just don't think it's a $70 experience. You can experience the same thing in a month or 2 months when the price is less. You're not missing anything out. And it's like an okay game that is an amazing showcase for what the PS5 can do. That is the overall my synopsis and my recommendation. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask. If not, we'll move on to the final, I guess, maybe where the legend of this game may lie.
I feel like I could talk about this game all day. I do have a couple of questions. Do you feel like this game? Do you feel like your feelings of this game would be the same as if like Astro's Playroom came out and cost like $50? Do you think you might be upset at Astro's Playroom if it was $50 instead of being free?
I don't, because and this is just what sucks, is because I mentioned that like indescribable fun factor. Astro's Playroom was fun. I didn't want to stop. I wanted to find all of the coins and all the little Astro bots.
You wanted to platinum it, yeah.
I wanted to play. I couldn't. I was like, I'm not finishing this. I'm not done with this game until I platinum it. And to be right honest, I would go and play Astro's Playroom right now. I want to play Astro's Playroom right now more than I want to play Ratchet and Clank. And it's hard to describe why, but there's some factor in there that it's the way it is. And so, I mean, I guess it's easy to say, yeah, I would pay for Astro's Playroom now because I've already played it and, it was fun. But it to me, Astro's Playroom is the better game. I enjoyed it more, and I don't know anyone who wasn't blown away. And it still utilized a dual sense, not quite as well. I forgot. Was there load screens in that? I don't even remember.
Not really. I mean, it was kind of showcasing the loading thing too. I mean, the thing about Astro's Playroom, I feel like Ratchet and Clank and Astro's Playroom are on a similar level. That's why I asked that question. But you do bring up a really good point in that I can't see myself looking for reasons to go back and replay levels of Ratchet and Clank, but I find myself often looking for reasons to go back and play Astro's Playroom. It's unfortunate that the reason isn't just the game itself, because I know once I platinum the game, I might have platinum, I don't know yet. Once you platinum Astro's Playroom, I don't think I'd have any reason to go back. Like somebody has to hand me a reason to go back to it. Whereas Ratchet and Clank, if somebody handed me a reason to go back to it, I'd probably be like, I'm okay. I don't need to do it. My next question, and we can end on this, is Insomniac, before they were acquired by Sony, they kind of had a little flirtation period with PC and PC VR games. They made a couple of VR games. I haven't played them. I heard, okay things about some of them. I heard really good things about other ones. My question is then, do you think if this was VR, not necessarily you play as Ratchet in first person, but imagine this game, the same gameplay, the same feeling, but with a perspective that like Astrobot Rescue Mission had, where it maybe it does a little bit more of the levels where you're having to look around and interact in like an actual VR space to really make you feel like you're there with Ratchet, but you're still controlling Ratchet in the third person perspective. You know what I mean? Do you think
It's almost like Trover, but instead you're controlling Ratchet, and it's a different game, obviously.
Yeah. Do you think that might add the little bit of specialness we're looking for? Because when the feeling I get outside of the VR perspective of Astrobot Rescue Mission and Ratchet and Clank feel very similar. Technically solid, not missing anything, runs completely smooth, everything works exactly as it should. It's constantly going 55, but Astrobot Rescue Mission has the VR component also that just kind of pushes it over the top and makes it something that you have to play. I'm wondering if Insomniac could just make a Ratchet and Clank VR that is almost just pasted into the Astro's Playroom mold, Astrobot Rescue Mission mold, if that would solve the problem that we're having trouble describing. Do you think that would affect it at all? Make it better?
I feel like it would need to be adapted. So with the Astro's Rescue Mission, the reason it was special was because although it was in VR, you still interacted in a way with Astro. You had to move your head to avoid enemies. You were really close to the action. And like, for example, in your controller, when you shot with the grappling hook, the tooth of that ape, and you had to pull it to rip it out, like you were in the game. So they could potentially do that with Ratchet and Clank, but I don't think it could be as simple as now you're looking down at Ratchet and you're playing the same game, just now you're kind of in this, they need to adapt it in some way to make it special. Otherwise, it's not. I think personally it would be a more fun game if it were a first person shooter where you were Ratchet, because then that reminds me of Doom VFR, where if you remember that game, there's tons of crap going on. There's constantly enemies coming at you. It's somewhat similar, and the environments are really involved, and you don't just sit there to admire hell, and it was a blast. It was a ton of fun. So I think in first person, shooter range, it could be fun. I don't know. It would be intriguing to see, but yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I wanted to blame myself for, okay, I like these quote unquote adult games. I don't want to play Spyro and Ratchet and Clank. But then I loved Astrobot. And the reason that was special, they hit you with nostalgia. They had good music. Like they went out of their way to make things that connected to you. And this game doesn't do that. I don't know what they could have done to do it, but that's your job as a developer to do that. So I don't know.
Very,
My yeah.
very last thing. Sorry, I forgot to ask this. Here's what I think they need to do to make Ratchet and Clank better, make it special. VR is one thing, but that's kind of pie in the sky. There's a company that's very similar to Insomniac, in my view, called Platinum Games. They are like masters of combat, of like combat mechanics and gameplay mechanics, but when left to their own devices, it's kind of wishy-washy as to how it's going to be. Their games are fun to play, but things seem to be missing. But then they got hooked up with a crazy dude named Yoko Taro, who I hate. I'm sorry we talk about Nier so much, but they made Nier.
It's the best game we've ever played. I don't feel bad. I just.
But
don't
he
feel-
brought in an appropriate amount of jank and wildness and randomness and just weirdness to the game. And then Platinum shored up all the technical aspects. I feel like Insomniac is missing some like cowboy developer, just some real weirdo in there who's going to design the game and say like, listen, this might not be fun, this might not be smooth, but I need you guys to do this and make sure it doesn't break the game. And then I think Insomniac would really shine. So Insomniac, incredible games they make, incredible technical masterpieces they make, but they need somebody to come in and just make things weird and do something really off the wall, and not just like fart jokes, but something really off the wall. And I feel like they have it in them. They just need like one person in there who's just not all together, but is kind of driving the whole company off the cliff in a creative way.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, I think a part of the issue is the fact that it's the same Ratchet and Clank as when I was a kid playing on the PS1. Like there's no difference. Whereas, and I mean, they're locked into that. Whereas, your daughter, okay, perfect game for her. She'll play this, she'll love it. It's the right level for her. It's not janky, it runs well, and she'll grow up and she'll remember, like, I don't know, the way I remember Pokemon, or the way, I don't know, we remember Super Mario 64. She's gonna remember maybe Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. But for us, for most of the audience, I'm past that. Like Nier had the freedom to get weird with it, to put big boobies or a bunch of plot twists and adult themes and different type of plot twists and side quests that made you contemplate what is the divide between robot and conscience beings and things of that nature. Whereas either they don't have that, they don't want to change the way in the culture of Ratchet and Clank. I don't know what it is. But my final question before we move on, because I do want you to talk about Returnal, is I've mentioned the game. Okay, it's an okay game, but does it matter, do you think, if this game is even quote unquote good, or is it really the importance of the breakthrough in the DualSense utilization and the way that the game utilizes the speed, the lack of load time, and ultimately how they developed for the PS5? Does the game even matter? Because as I'm sitting there playing the game, I'm wondering that. As I've kind of alluded to earlier in our discussion, I'm thinking now, like as I mentioned, Square Enix or all these other game developers are looking at this and they now know how it can be done, how well it is, and now they can use that for their games that are better. And that ultimately is going to be the gateway. Heck, maybe they're already there with Returnal. I don't know. I haven't played Returnal. You can tell me here in a second. But that kind of excites me. So do you even care if Ratchet and Clank is good? Do you think there is a breakthrough there? Or do you think maybe we're already even there and it's just another example of how it could be utilized?
that's a really good point of discussion. I almost feel like you could have a segment of a podcast about it. We'll talk. I'll answer it here, and we can be done with it though. Had you asked me that question before Sony acquired Insomniac, I would say no. The game has to be good. Well, this could be PS5 exclusive, but the game has to be good. Now that Sony has acquired Insomniac, Sony announced so many years ago, maybe a couple or 3 years ago, that they're working with their in-house developers like Naughty Dog and Sucker Punch to share technology across development studios to really take their games to the next level. And I think now that Insomniac is part of that in group of developers, um, the answer to your question changes. And in a sense, no, the game doesn't have to be like great. It has to work. The game has to work, and it has to be technically immaculate, which is what Ratchet and Clank seems to always be, and it sounds like that's what it is. And so now you have, imagine somebody like Naughty Dog coming in who can inject soul into a game like The Last of Us, but they've now they can be handed the tools by Insomniac to say, here's how you utilize the DualSense. Here's how you utilize the load screens. Here's some creative things you can do with it. Now we need you to put your soul into this too, and then you can really get some special stuff. Sucker Punch as well with like Ghost of Tsushima and stuff like that. They had kind of a rocky start. A company I think, and a series, or at least the games I think would really benefit from this is Bend Studio, who made Days Gone. That kind of got, a lot of people got upset because it kind of felt samey, right? Days Gone is good, but it feels kind of samey. Feels like it's trotting some of the same ground that like Last of Us and stuff was doing. And there were technical issues with the game, at least at launch. Insomniac shores up the technical aspects, and then Bend can insert their soul into the game design as they've designed it, and so you can get some really next level projects out of that. So I guess to answer your question, the game doesn't have to be really good. It just has to be perfect on its technical merits, and it sounds like that's what they've done. And now they have this tool set that they can share with these other in-house developers, and that bodes well for games coming out 2 or 3 years from now on the PS5. So I'm glad Ratchet and Clank came out. I'm glad Insomniac showed that we're able to do this stuff. And I recently just saw a headline from the Insomniac developers. They said this is the tip of the iceberg for the PlayStation 5. Great. I love it. This should have been a launch title. This should have been what came out day one. And, it should have been packed in a la Astro's Playroom. But great question, Adam. I'm glad it exists. I don't know if it's a must play at this point, but this technology must be utilized further. Returnal is not that case, but for different reasons.
Yeah, I hated to use this is almost the length of a whole podcast, but I do want you to get off your chest your thoughts about Returnal real quick. Thankfully, segment 2 will be shorter, so if you're listening, don't freak out and think we're going to have a 3-hour podcast. But tell me about Returnal. I'm interested in this game. I obviously now a lot of that hype and excitement is gone because people have played it and platinumed it and stuff. I obviously haven't had it. The prices, I'm sure, falling on eBay and things, and so now is in the range where I'm done with Ratchet and Clank here soon. I'm gonna consider buying this. You can sway me right here. You've played more of it. Tell me what you're thinking.
Yeah, I wanted to come back and revisit Returnal because I've had more time with it. It launched right as we were doing May Days, and so I had one day to play it essentially because then I had to move on to another game for May Days. I've now had more time to return to Returnal, and I've kind of gotten a better feeling for it. So I wanted to revisit it and just touch upon it a bit of how I'm feeling about the game. Essentially, it's Groundhog Day meets Metroid. So you're a woman who's crash landed on a planet. You suddenly find your own dead body on this planet, and that kind of kicks off the story of like, what the hell is going on here? I need to go find out. I need to find these scout logs that are scattered around this land and figure out what's going on. And you find these scout logs, which are your own recordings of what you've encountered. And you kind of get, concerned because the person you're hearing on the scout logs is you, but it doesn't sound like you in the sense like, why are you saying these things? You seem to have already been here. You seem to know what's going on.
I'm liking that. See, I don't know anything about the plot. I know nothing about the game. I like that. That is the weird, freaky, unsettling crap that I dig. So
yeah.
So far, I like it.
Exactly. And so it's not heavy and it doesn't lay it on thick. And sometimes the scout logs are few and far between because everybody that Returnal is difficult, and so the difficulty can kind of create an artificial bridge between story beats, which is unfortunate, but it does make it when you find a scout log, you want to listen to everything because there's going to be something weird in there. Just it's like, oh, it's just a reminder that like my character has been here before. I need to figure out why. Um, so that's kind of what's going on, and that goes part and parcel with the gameplay, and that you're going through this environment, you're going through this planet, and then you die and you start back from the beginning, and you start back exactly where you were. It's almost like it plays a little montage of your ship crashing again, and then you wake up just like you did at the first game or first time you booted up the game. So the game's constantly resetting, which surprise, surprise, it's roguelike mechanics. Everybody's done it. Everybody's played roguelike mechanics now. But this just, it puts a real story to it. And now you're actually wondering, why is this happening to me? And it's kind of like that movie, Edge of Tomorrow. I don't know if you've seen that. It's kind of a mind-bending movie like that. Kind of a little bit of predestination there. And now it's, as I get deeper into the game, it's got like some weird cosmic horror to it, which I always love. Because the thing I like about this game is that even though you kind of, if you get a good run and you have a good loadout and you successfully get through the first series of rooms and you're kind of not overpowered but a pretty powerful character, the game never stops feeling oppressive. The environments aren't the environments don't stop feeling oppressive. The enemies are always dangerous. So that's something I always like in a game where you kind of feel the pressure on you. And even though you're really powerful, you always feel out of your element a little bit. That's what I like about the Souls games and Bloodborne and stuff like that. So this lays that on you too, with this cool, weird sci-fi time-bending story. But that oppression isn't frustrating. So there's a difference when a game is difficult and it's frustrating, and there's a difference when a game is difficult and it's not frustrating. And unlike some of those aforementioned games where a game you might die or lose progress or something like that, but you're like, yeah, it was my fault that I lost, so that's okay. This isn't even like that. Because of the roguelike nature of this game, you're not frustrated. And I never, even when I die, even when I do like an hour-long run, I don't feel like I've lost progress because I know I got to that point within an hour. And I can get to that point again. And if I play my cards right, I can get further. So even though the game is hard, and I told you, offline, we were texting about it. Yeah, the game's really hard. And you said, I don't know if I'd like it. It sounds like a slog. It's like the exact opposite of that, because the gameplay is so finely tuned for entertainment and fun that you never feel like you're like, grinding through. It's like the antithesis of like an RPG where you have to grind your characters. You never feel like you're grinding through the levels, so it never feels like a slog. You just feel like you're kind of just playing the game again. And I don't know, Adam, have you ever played a game that you really just got to know it really well and you would just play through it over and over again? For me, that was Mega Man X4. I would play it like once a day just because I got to know it really well, and I loved just going through it over and over and over again. This feels like that, except you're also making progress every time you go through the game because you're going to die at some point. Have you ever had a game like that you could just kind of run through and you just like the feeling of running through it again because you love the gameplay so much? Don't say Kingdom Hearts.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That's exactly what I was going to say. Oh, I mean, there's that. I mean, there's almost like the super early Pokemon games that I remember by heart because I played them so much as a kid. Maybe that. I mean, I know what Pokemon to get, and I know all the puzzles, and I know where to go, and I don't know.
No, but that's the thing. You get so used to the gameplay and you enjoy the gameplay so much that you just like going through the motions of the game. This feels like that, except you don't have to have that intimate knowledge of the game because the gameplay is it's Housemarque Studios. All their games feel like this. It's just so finely tuned that you always feel, incongruous with the game of how it feels. So that's a really great thing for a roguelike game, and that's what I'm really enjoying about the game. I kind of mentioned the story a bit. It's surprisingly scary. There's a couple of elements that are just kind of like psychological horror because you'll go into like a first person mode. Early on in the first environment, you find what is like a replica of your house on this alien planet for some reason. And you go in and you like walk through the house and there's like a hallway that's all like completely dark and you start walking there and she says, no, I I can't go there. And it's just like, what's going on here? What's happening? You find pictures in the house. She talks about them, and it's like, okay, there's something happening, and you get really interested in the story. And I found myself at points like, I don't want to go in this room because I know something spooky is going to happen. I don't want to deal with it. So I guess really the way I want to say it is I've played roguelike games before. I played Binding of Isaac on May Days. I've played a lot of these games where you die and start over and you do your progress and it's fun. The gameplay feels good. I haven't played one that's had an engaging story that also ties into the roguelike mechanics to a degree to where it makes me want to play more. I want to learn more of the story. It makes sense with the gameplay, and it's all got this triple A graphical technical wrapping to it. The game is just everything about it's so good. I'm loving it so much. And you, Adam, as somebody who likes Metroid, you get these crazy Metroid vibes too. You going through these environments. I mean, I mentioned when I first talked about the game that the environments are procedural. It's not that the environments are necessarily procedural. You just have like kind of set rooms, individual rooms in the map that are of a certain design. Those don't change, but the arrangement of the rooms change. So the map is different every time you play, but the rooms you get a familiarity with. And it's really fun because sometimes you go into a room and it's going to be just like, 6, 7, 8 low level enemies. Sometimes you go into a room and there's like 6, 7, 8 low level enemies and you're in the middle of it and suddenly like a mini boss pops up. So that's fun. You never know when you're going to encounter a mini boss. Sometimes you go into one, it's like, oh, guess what, a hole? There's 4 mini bosses now all at once, and so it's like just these weird twists that makes the game never old. And so now that I've gone on to there's like 5 different environments. Now that I've gone on to the other environments, I still enjoy going through the first environment because there's these extra variables in there, not only in the environment themselves, but in what enemies I'm going to encounter and in what power ups I'm going to find and stuff like that. It's really just a chef's kiss of a game. It's mwah. I'm loving every second of playing it, and the best part for me, it's the perfect dad game because, like I said, you don't lose progress. You play through the game for an hour, and if I have to stop the game early and I quote unquote lose the progress that I've made, it's fine. I was probably going to die at some point anyways and start over from the beginning again. I relish the opportunity to run through all these environments and get to the next level. I'm excited to go through a freshly generated map. I'm excited to find a different layout of power ups and stuff like that, and I'm excited to get a little bit further each time. So there's just so many variables mixed in that makes every run feel fresh and fresh in a good way, and it just minimizes frustration while maximizing the surprise and just the overall enjoyment of the game. Have I sold you on it any better aside from just being incredibly positive about the game?
Yeah, I'm pretty close. I'm to the point where I'm pretty sure I'm gonna buy it and I'm gonna try it. The only thing that has me held back is I really hate games that are overly difficult. And this everything works except the difficulty. That I think is what's gonna make me hate or not love this game. I hate redoing things. I hate the fact that when you die, you get no advantage the next time. That you're just all on your own again. Like it was, most roguelikes, like the persistence. You go and you progress a little bit, but when you die, okay, you opened up a new health, power up, or you have a new gun, or you have a new ability. The fact that this doesn't have that makes me worry that I'm going to play it for a few hours, I'm going to keep dying, and then I'm going to end up being infuriated. I'm going to stop because, again, I play games to have fun, not to get incredibly annoyed and agitated and keep dying over and over. But
Well, I will say this. This does have elements that are permanent. You get partway in the game, you get kind of an upgrade, kind of like the Samus suit upgrades, where you get like a grappling hook or a sword or special boots, and that helps you shortcut your way through the earlier levels so that you're not kind of slogging through them again and again and again. So you're not starting entirely fresh. There's different, money in the game. There's like the money that you accrue in that game that goes away when you die, but then there's other money that you can kind of accrue permanently through multiple runs, and then you have like a little thing that you stop at the beginning and you can spend that permanent money to get like immediate upgrades right off the bat. And then there's even things like you gain, just as the person playing, you gain knowledge of like what's important and what's not important. It's like, this room I don't need to go through because I know I'm not going to get a better gun out of it. I need to focus on picking up these items because that's going to make my guns more powerful when I get to the second level. So now I can just run through the entire first biome and just run straight to the second one because I know I'll be able to handle the first, couple of rooms of enemies, and they'll drop a gun that's worth a damn. So I can just kind of start fresh in that second level. But if you want to grind and try to build yourself up before you go into that second level again, you have the opportunity for that. I think the difficulty of the game has been overstated. I beat the first boss on like my first or second try, and that apparently has been like the killer for everybody playing the game. And I'm not that good of a gamer. So I will say, if you go into the game expecting incredible difficulty, you might bang your head against a wall and think you're not succeeding because of that difficulty. But it might just be that you don't have enough knowledge yet, and the game's trying to drip feed you the knowledge to make you get used to it. So I would suggest, don't get frustrated. You're going to die, 5 or 10 times, but because there's no load times, there's really no punishment for dying. The point of the game is to play it and just get more comfortable with it. And that character-wise, that's what it's about, is your character's going through this world, and she's got to get comfortable with the environment, comfortable with what's happening. And that bleeds into the story too. So it's, a lot of great stuff happening there. I almost hesitate to tell you to buy it, though, because I know how you can bounce off games really hard. So maybe I can finish it relatively soon, and I can send it out to you so you can just give it a shot.
Well, everyone heard that Alex tried to kiss me, and before he tries to do it again, I'm going to go on to a break. We're going to come back with Hit It or Quit It. It'll be a quick segment. We're going to hit it or we're going to quit it. We'll see you on the other end of the break. All right, we are back with Play PS5, the podcast, and it is time, Alex, to hit it or quit it. And no, I don't want to learn about your sex life, but I do want your opinions about video games. Are you ready to hit it or quit it?
I was born ready, Adam. I think this is the perfect segment for you and me. So let's do this, man. I'm ready to annihilate.
Okay, so I know you're a big boxing fan. This isn't necessarily PS5 related, but Jake Paul entered the arena with Floyd Mayweather last week wearing a Charizard. It is a Shadowless first edition Charizard card, the granddaddy of them all, on his lanyard. And I want to know, would you hit it or quit it? Is that lame, or do you like it?
This is a big time hit it, and not because I'm a boxing fan, not because I'm a Jake Paul fan, but honestly, say what you want about Jake Paul. I don't know much about him, but I know that he kind of popularized some of this Pokemon card stuff, and the fact that he had a call to that in his ring entrance, as nerdy and weird as that is, dude knows where he comes from, and he represents that. Hit it all the way, baby. That was a classy move for such an unclassy dude. Classy move. He knows his audience, and he nailed it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. You want to do the next one? We'll just go back and forth here.
And I'll cover the E3 ones. Yeah, okay. Horizon Zero Dawn won't be cross-gen limited, says Matisse De Jong. Hit it or quit it, Adam.
I want to talk about this, but I'm going to quit it. Because here's the thing. I do not believe, I hope I'm wrong, but I cannot believe that a studio who has to develop for the PS4 and the PS5 is able to give as much attention to the PS5 version as a PS5 exclusive game. I just don't believe it. I hope it's not true. Where do you lie on this?
Sucks. Quit it.
Yeah, I don't understand how. I'm real afraid I'm going to be disappointed in this game. I don't know. Not sure. This is Playstradamus he hasn't quite come through yet, but Godfall, if you remember, one of the launch titles for the PS5, a PS5 exclusive, is now officially coming to the PS4. Hit it or quit it.
Hit Playstradamus, quit Godfall, baby. Yes. It's one step away. You know the next step is a PlayStation Plus game. Playstradamus is laughing. He's laughing right now.
Yeah, it's kind of sucky that the game, we both played it. I think I was a little more favorable on it than you were. It has its place, but it's unfortunate that Obviously not enough PS5 people have played it. It's moving to the PS4. If you're a PS4, try it. It's not a bad game. If you had to rate it, Alex, like as it goes to PS4, would you recommend people to play it?
On PS5, it's a 5 out of 10 at best. On PS4, it's probably
Oof.
worse than that.
Oof. Wow. That's rough.
Big time quit it, baby. Adam, out of E3, we found out that Fall Guys, that game everybody loves to play, that it kind of got memed a little bit. They're doing a Nier Automata crossover. You can play as like a chubby, weird version of 2B. Hit it or quit it.
Yeah, I'm going to quit it because one, Fall Guys isn't fun. It's overplayed. It's basic. And two, 2B's boobies aren't big enough. They did a bad job representing her. She has more junk in the trunk. She's got more headlights. I don't know what breasts would be. Quit that. Okay, Alex. Persistence. One of my favorite PSVR games is getting a PS5 upgrade. So that I'm assuming is the flat version. Are you going to hit that or are you going to quit that?
I'm going to big time hit this, baby. If anything, Returnal has taught me that roguelikes are a very important game style in the video game ecosystem. And Persistence is an excellent version of that. Now, this isn't going to have VR upgrades, so I'm disappointed in that. But if they can make some cool PS5 stuff happen, some haptics and things like that, this is a big time hit. Persistence is a good game, VR or not. I want more people to play it. If this gets the company and the game the reputation it deserves, super hit it, man.
So is this enough for you to go back and play the Persistence in flat version?
For sure. For sure.
Even though you've already played it in VR, because I feel like it's not going to be as good, and even with better graphics, I would rather just play in VR with worse graphics.
The difficulty with roguelikes in VR is that VR requires all this setup. There's a lot of inertia to get going to play a VR game. But I like roguelikes because you just kind of pop in, do a run, pop out as time needed. This is just going to make that even better. Faster load times. Everything about it screams a great PS5 upgrade. So super hit it, man. I love this. I'm going to
quit it. I'm going to quit on you because that's bullcrap. Because the great thing about Persistence is the fact that you are in it. In virtual reality, you feel as though you are there. You are hearing the screams with that 3D audio. You don't know what's coming when you're getting bombarded by enemies or you're on the brink of death. You yourself feel that you are in there and you are fighting for your life. In a flat game, I don't feel that I'm just going to be like, oh, okay, I died. Just like I die in other video games. I'm going to quit you, Alex.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to do an E3 lightning round. It's E3 season. E3 is not quite the thing it used to be. Now everybody's just kind of doing their own thing, but they're all doing it at the same time. So E3 is just kind of an idea of what's happening over the summer when people talk about games. Adam, before we do the E3-ish lightning round, I want to ask you, what are you looking forward to in E3? Any announcements you're looking forward to? Something you want to hear about that maybe we've kind of been waiting for news on?
So my thing is I'm looking forward. I believe it's tomorrow. Square Enix is going to do their presentation. I'm a Square Enix hound. I love Kingdom Hearts. I'm digging Final Fantasy VII. I, in general, like the Final Fantasy series, even though I don't play all the games. I like their games. I'm a big fan of Nier. Actually, my two favorite genres, or not genres, but Nier and Kingdom Hearts, the franchises are my favorite. I'm a Square Enix whore, and I can't wait. I want to learn about that Yoko Taro game that he said is real weird, and he doesn't know how to market it. That's getting me horny. Also, they have, surely there's got to be Final Fantasy upgrades. There is, I don't know if you noticed this, and I forgot to mention it last week or whenever we did a pod. So they mentioned that there's going to be a Final Fantasy game that isn't, or a PS5 exclusive. And you were like, oh, or I think there's an update. I forgot what the news was, but you were like, oh, it's going to be the second portion of Final Fantasy VII. No, there's a separate Final Fantasy experience and game. And I think it's going to be shorter, but is PS5 exclusive, I believe. Going to be special. We'll probably hear more about that. I'm excited for Square Enix. How about you? Where are you going? Who are you looking forward to hearing about? Or is there a big announcement you're expecting?
Sony doesn't have their own showcase like they normally do. They just kind of avoid this stuff altogether. So that would be a big thing I'd be excited about. We're not going to see too much from that. We're kind of relying on other developers to showcase stuff. Square Enix is, for the similar reasons as you, I'm excited about what they showcase. Final Fantasy 16 that they showed us not long ago looked great, even though it was cinematics, but the feeling of it was nice. Final Fantasy 7 Intergrade, the PS5 upgrade with some extra content. That's exciting because I wanted to play the remake, and now I have a really good reason to play the remake because it's going to make use of my PS5. And also, I hear that rumored game you're talking about is a Souls-like, and I'm a homer for Souls-like games. Souls-like plus Final Fantasy on a PS5, and I'm all in, man. That's going to be really fun. But the biggest piece so far, it's already been announced. Summer Games Fest, they announced Elden Ring. We'll talk about it later. It's on the hit it or quit it list. Man, it just looks fantastic. But moving on, Adam, before this whole E3 season kicked off, Sony did what they normally do. They just kind of under the radar threw a bunch of stuff out there on PSVR. And I know this is Play PS5 the podcast. You've kind of moved off from VR a little bit, Adam, but we're going to do a quick hit and a quit on these games that were just announced. Adam, Sniper Elite VR sets its sights on a July 8th release. Aim controller functionality, hit it or quit it.
I'll hit it, but it's going to be like I'm giving 70% hit it. It's because this game, I've heard about this game for so long. What's taking so long? I mean, I don't know.
What if I told you the developers were the people who made Battlezone?
I mean, it's very good. I know, but literally, I feel like we've been talking about this game for almost 2 years. I don't understand. But yeah, we'll play it. I love the aim controller. It's a VR game. It's going to be a buy, but it's just, come on, hurry up. All right. I don't know what the heck this is. You wrote this, but I'm
just
going
read
to
the
go
headline.
full in.
Yeah.
It's a Wanderer. It is you are rewriting the past. You're reshaping the future in PSVR. Wanderer. From what you have seen, this game is a hit or a quit.
I like adventure games. I like time travel weirdness, and I like PSVR. It's going to be a hit it for me unless they're suddenly going to make it like a $60 game or something like that.
Hopefully not. Also, there's so much rum. I've downed that entire. Oh my. Okay.
Adam, PSVR, FPS, adventure, but really kind of an action title, Fracked, hits the slopes this summer. If you don't know, you're like you're skiing and you're kind of disrupting a fracking operation on a mountain. A lot of shooting going on with submachine guns in VR. Hit it or quit it.
I fracked your mom's behind. Quit it.
This is Play PS5. You're talking about my auntie, please.
Oh, yeah, we're talking about VR. That confused me. You're right.
Okay,
my
yep.
apologies. I fracked
right? Yeah.
I fracked your auntie. So after the fall, this is detailing the PSVR co-op shooters world with enemies, combat. Showed some good stuff. Are you going to hit this or quit this?
I want to say quit it because it's Vertigo Games and they did the zombie game Arizona Sunshine, which was all right, but it's hard for me to get excited about stuff. However, this is like, another go around. The trailers and everything look great. And if they're focusing on co-op with PSVR, that's a hit it for me, baby. I'm loving it.
I'm gonna quit that, but okay.
Wins and Leaves, a Flora builder in a world full of secrets, hits PSVR July 27th, Adam. Hit it or quit it.
The only secret here is why you would spend your hard-earned money on a piece of crap game like that. Quit it. Sorry, maybe that was a little harsh. But
a little harsh, but I understand, yeah.
I am going to quit that. Puzzle Bobble 3D. Vacation Odyssey enters a new dimension of VR. Puzzle Bobble 3D. Why don't you just put a binky up my butthole and a celery stick in my mouth? You're gonna hit it or quit this?
You might be surprised, Adam. I'm tentatively gonna hit this. Have you ever played Puzzle Bobble?
I mean, what does Bobble even mean? No, I've never played this.
Okay. When we're done with the podcast, look up Bubble Bobble Techno Remix, some of the best video game music ever from a bygone era. Puzzle Bobble. I hope
Weeble Wobble Bobble.
I'm telling you, dude, Puzzle Bobble is a great puzzle game. I'm hoping they make it work in 3D. I'm tentatively excited. This is a tentative hit it for me, Adam.
Oh, I can't even say the name without laughing.
Become a ninja in PSVR stealth action sandbox game, Arashi, Castles of Sin. Hit it or quit it.
I'm going to become more than a ninja. I'm going to become your daddy because I like these stealth games. They're exciting games. Now, most of them I've played are like The Last of Us, or they're like a Home Sweet Home, which has a horror aspect to it. Stealth games are pretty fun. Also, does this have anything to do with Japanese or Chinese
Yeah,
individuals?
Japanese ninja, Japanese, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of that. Their culture is cool, and I will dress in the correct apparel. So now moving on to non-PSVR hit its and quitting its is Metro Exodus Enhanced. Full on ray tracing. Who doesn't love that? Ray tracing. It's next gen. Are you going to hit that or quit that?
I want to hit it, but I'm going to say quit it because I've played some of
What?
Metro Exodus and people loved it, but I just couldn't get excited about it. I couldn't get into it, so I got to
What
say
the
quit it, man.
heck? Wow. But you're good on Puzzle Bobble. Weeble Wobble 3D, you're going to hit it. But whatever. Yeah.
It's a PS4 game with enhancements. We've seen that before, and it always is kind of non-impressive. Adam, Doki Doki Literature Club, a PC game. I'm just going to read here from Wikipedia what I looked up. I know it's kind of a controversial game. Hope this isn't too huge of a spoiler. The story is told from the perspective of a male high school student who joins a school's literature club in an attempt to woo one of its 4 female members. Doki Doki Literature Club features a non-traditional plot structure with multiple endings and unlockable cutscenes. However, although this game initially appears to be a lighthearted dating simulator, it is in fact a psychological horror game that extensively breaks the fourth wall. Adam, hit or quit?
Dude, I promise you, this sounds like a summary of my life. So I am very interested in this. The dating sim is a little strange, but I obviously never played the game. But the fact there may be a twist, a psychological horror, that's what I'm talking about. That is my life. That is my history. That is who I am. I am Doki Doki, and you're part of my literature club. Jedi Fallen Order for the PS5. There aren't any haptics. There aren't any DualSense. It's just 4K 60. I know what I would hit and quit, but what would you?
Quit it, man. You're gonna put a game on PS5 and not have any of the DualSense stuff? Quit that bad boy. Play. You probably already played it on PS4. Who cares if it's a little bit sharper?
Like, that is insulting. That's like coming to your mom, your auntie's house and telling her, "Hey, this stir fry sucks."
Yeah, I don't even want it. Elden Ring, Elden Ring was shown for the first time. Not just talked about, shown for the first time. The trailer looked amazing. It's George R.R. Martin who wrote Game of Thrones. You know, for whatever you think about that, it's at least intriguing lore there. And the release date, January 21st, 2022. We're not waiting that long for it. Adam, I know you have no history with Souls-like games. Are you going to hit it or quit it on Elden Ring? I'm going to hit it. Are you going to hit it or quit it?
Hey, Alex's auntie, I don't want this stir fry. Get me some Jade Palace. I don't even know. I want you to tell me why I should be excited for this because I know you are. I don't know anything about this. Tell me why I should hit this.
I mean, if you like Demon Souls, you like Dark Souls, you like Bloodborne, this is the
Okay,
next
I didn't
game.
play any of them. I played like 20 minutes of Bloodborne before I sold my PS4.
Amazing world building, unparalleled beautiful environments, ridiculous enemies that are just at one instance scary, one instance disgusting, and one instance marvelous. It's some of the best combat you're ever going to find in a video game. That's what From Software and Miyazaki brings to the table, and now George R.R. Martin has inserted some of this, all this weird, fantasy, sci-fi, weird lore into it as well. There's no way this can't be a real winner. So that's why you have to hit it, man. It's maybe the biggest game that's going to come out this generation.
Wow, that is big praise, and because of that, I will hit it. I want to know if you're going to hit the Death Stranding director's cut for the PS5. I know you've been wanting to play this. You don't have the time. You may not have the money. You may not have the patience. But are you going to hit it or quit it?
I'm going to hit it if it's a free or cheap upgrade. I'm going to quit it if it's a full-priced second release of this game. I know it's supposed to be
but
boring.
Mind you, something that's interesting is you mentioned Final Fantasy VII Integrate earlier. To get the Yuffie extra DLC, you had to have purchased the entire game. You could not do the PS Plus free version of the game. So Sony's kind of made you, put you in a bit of a corner. I don't know if you purchased Death Stranding. If so, you're probably okay. But I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird that it's a director's cut because there was nobody to limit the director the first time the game was made. I love Kojima though, so it's hit it. It's probably going to end up being a hitting it either way. Adam, Salt and Sacrifice, the sequel to the side scroller, roguelike, Metroidvania, Souls like sequel to Salt and Sanctuary. I watched the trailer for it. It almost looked like it was made in like Flash Studios, like those old internet games. Hit it or quit it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to quit that. There are too many games, and there's too much potential for the PS5 for us to buy these games that are underutilized. It's time to move on. It's time to move up. We need to learn about the conspiracies of the UFOs and the government. We need games that unlock and unveil those. And it's time, Alex. So I'm going to quit this. And I forgot what game that one guy was. What was the name of that game?
I feel bad, but it's an oddly prescient game these days. Yeah, I feel bad.
I really want to have him back on. But Tiny Tina's Wonderland, Tiny Tina 3D Bubble Bobble Weeble Wobble, D&D style dungeons. What is this? And do you want to hit it or quit it? Not Tina. We're not sexual predators. We're just the game.
Yeah. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, a play on the name Borderlands. This is an add-on to Borderlands 3 for the PS5. Except it's got like some weird D&D elements to it, and Tiny Tina is your dungeon master. Throw in some fantasy elements, throw in some better writing, hopefully. Throw in some notable voice actors like Will Arnett of what show is that? Arrested Development fame.
Yeah.
A lot. Wanda Sykes, a lot of other famous people working on it. This looks like something good that has come out of Borderlands 3. Therefore, I'm going to hit it, man.
It's interesting because I have Borderlands 3. I really don't like it. Maybe this gives me a reason to try it again. It was so boring.
Yeah, I think this is going to make it less boring because it's less of that wasteland atmosphere and more of like this weird kind of dungeon stuff where things are changing on you and it just looks kind of fun. Adam, Battlefield 2042 was announced. Kind of a big game. I'm not really experienced with Battlefield, but it's going to have 128 player matches on PlayStation 5. And it's also, imagine like a giant team deathmatch game, but also randomly you can get like tornadoes and hurricanes in the middle of the match to really screw you up. Are you going to hit or quit this, Adam?
Here's the thing. I've played Honor and Duty, and they've done everything Battlefield 2042's done. I'm not that interested. I'm going to quit
it. No, they haven't. But move on, Adam.
What? I don't know if it was 120, but they had a big time, like...
they had a big time. All right, move on, Adam. What's the next one?
Rocksmith Plus. Hit it or quit it.
Listen, this is that game where you plug an actual guitar into your controller and it kind of does like a pseudo Guitar Hero thing, but actually teaches you how to play guitar. I've always wanted to learn how to play guitar. Maybe a video game will motivate me to do that. Depending on the price, I want to hit it. Don't know if I have the time. So a minor hit there, more of a hit than a quit. Adam, what do you think?
I'm gonna quit this so hard.
Yeah.
You bull crap. I'm trying piano. Freaking Nier's bending me over the table. Why is everything so difficult? The other day, and then I'm done. I even tried to learn a very simple song, like Jesus Loves the Little Children. So difficult. I can't play it, Alex. I'm a fraud. I suck.
Oh, well, we got to get out of here before the rum takes control of Adam over here. This has been a great podcast, Adam. Thank you so much. Let's end it on the highest note we can for the rest of the evening. Listen, listener, are you horny for E3? Because it's coming up. All this stuff it's yet to happen, and we want to cover it for you. Are you ratcheted up for Clank? Are you happy that we returned to Returnal? Let us know if so. Go to email contact at playps5podcast.com. Or you know what? Your auntie's already in the DMs, chatting it up with us. See if she'll let you log in. You can hit us up on Twitter. The account is at playps5pod. We're horny for you. We're horny for E3. We're horny for the PS5. So thank you for listening. And don't play with yourself. Play PS5, the podcast.